Hi guys, it's Shell, Sunbury Housewives. Welcome back to another video. If you're new to our channel, thank you so much for stopping by. Hit that subscribe button if you want to see future videos. So today I am working on a custom order and it's a really fun groovy tumbler. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm starting out with a 30-ounce straight tumbler from the Stainless Depot, and I went ahead and prepped and painted it white. And the first thing I'm going to do is put a thin layer of, well, apparently I'm going to show you my glitter first. I'm starting off on a great foot. So I'm showing you all the glitters that I'm starting out with, and as I put the glitters on, I do add a couple more glitters. All the glitters will be listed in the description box below, but here is going to be a close-up of the glitters that I used. Most of them are from either Let's Resin, The Glitter Guy, or Glitter Heart Co. So now I'm going to put a very thin layer of resin all over the tumbler. I use probably less than 2 milliliters of epoxy on this tumbler so that I can get my glitters to stick. And I just want to make sure that I have very good coverage of the epoxy so that I don't have to worry about not having great glitter coverage. Once the glitter, or the epoxy, once the epoxy is down, I do torch it just to make sure that there is no bubbles, and then I start with the purple, which I believe is called Tangled by the Glitter Guy. Then once I get that done, I make sure to put the rest in the bottle, and I move on to the next glitter, which is a from Let's Resin. It's this bluish color. Like I said, all the glitters will be in the description box below. And I just go a little bit into the purple to do sort of a little bit of an ombre. Then I move on to the green. And then I'd go so forth up with each color. I do make sure to completely brush off the parchment paper so that I don't mix any of the glitters and contaminate the glitter in the bottle. So now I move on to the yellow. And I went a little higher on the yellow than I had anticipated, but I started noticing that my spacing wasn't exactly in my mind working out on the tumbler itself. So then I move into the orange, and then I move into the red. And once I get to the red, this is where I really started noticing that the very last color would have been just this random pink the rest of the way. So this is where I add in the one of the extra colors. So I wanted like a fuchsia color, so I added this fuchsia pink. And then I move into the original pink that I was going to use. And then that would still have been way too much of the pink. And I have this really cool, it's called tie-dye, and I found it on Etsy. And if I can find it again, I'll definitely link that below. So I did grab that to do just that little bit that was up at the top. And it doesn't translate as cool on the tumbler as it does on the paper. On the paper, you can see it almost separates on the paper, but it's still a cool glitter. So now, just to make sure all my glitters were laying down, I did this. Don't do this. That was stupid. yeah, don't do that. So once that had dried, it was time to add epoxy. I didn't seal this because I really didn't mind if some of the glitters kind of went into each other, because it is an ombre-ish type anyway. So I added a flood coat, and what a flood coat is adding a little bit more epoxy than you normally would, because I was hoping to get by with just one coat. Spoiler alert, I needed 2 coats. Anyway, so I'm using about 30 mLs here, which I should have known to use a little bit more, but that was fine. 2 coats of epoxy to be able to go on to the next step. So I just go ahead and continue to pour on my epoxy and smooth that out, and then I will torch out any bubbles. Then I go ahead and grab some of this like iridescent chunky glitter, and I just sprinkle very lightly over the entire tumbler. And this is another reason why I needed yet another coat after this, because the epoxy needed to cover that before I went on to the next step. So once the epoxy coat after that was done, I had cut out the decals to do a peekaboo, and I had hoped to just kind of wrap this around, but I didn't measure correctly. Always measure correctly. I measured before the tumbler was epoxied, and that was a stupid move on my part. I should have not done that. I should have measured after it had been epoxied, because it changes the dimensions. So I went ahead and just cut this up and did it that way. So I couldn't just wrap it around like I had initially wanted. See, and this is where I'm noticing that it was not gonna wrap the way I wanted it to. So yep, just gonna keep cutting away until I realized that it was absolutely not how I wanted it. And not to mention, I didn't get the height right either, which I don't know why I didn't measure the height of this. I'm so used to doing 20-ounce tumblers, and I wouldn't have gotten some of the purple and some of that pink up at the top. So this is why I also just did it this way. So as I'm placing down the temporary vinyl, temporary removable vinyl, this is going to be laid down so that once I spray paint over it, I'll be able to pick it back up with no problem. So just going through and placing all the decals where I want them. So now I'm just making sure that all of those decals are laying down so that no spray paint will get up underneath it. You definitely don't want that. And once I'm sure that everything is laid down properly, I take it outside and give it a nice coat of white spray paint. And then once that's dry, I go ahead and remove all of the decals. It was just a little bit tacky. It wasn't completely dry. Hence why I'm wearing gloves, because I didn't want spray paint all over my fingers. But I also didn't want any thing, because I wanted this really white. I didn't want anything to get onto that freshly painted spray paint. So I'm going to go ahead and continue removing all of the decals. Once all of those were done and the tumbler was completely dry, I did mix up epoxy and add a little bit of marshmallow from the Glitter Heart Co. into the epoxy, just to add some glitter shine to the white. It wasn't going to harm the glitter that's already there, it just adds to it. So I mix that in very well, and then I will add that to the tumbler. This is, I do believe I add a little bit of diamonds in there too, just to add a little bit more sparkle. But I do give this, I only needed to add one coat of epoxy to this before moving on to the next step. And look at that sparkle. I know it's kind of hard to see, but it's there, trust me. And then I let this spin for 12 hours before moving on to the next step, which is adding the outlines. So this was fun. I had a lot of trouble with my silhouette for some reason that day, not wanting to cut. And so I had to cut this out 3 separate times. And some of the little flowers did not want to cut out at all. So I ended up just not even doing those ones, but the rest of them had no problem. So here I'm going to add the outlines to the cutouts, whatever you want to call them, and just match those up. So that's what I am doing here, matching them all up. Thankfully, all of them, but the one on the bottom were all the same size, so I didn't really have to struggle finding which one went where. But once they're all lined up, I just laid those down. And then the flowers that did not want to have the outline cut out, I just added a couple of just the inside of the flower to the tumbler. To the tumbler. Did that make any sense at all? Just to add a little extra to it. So that's what I'm doing here. I know, I'm screaming too. I'm screaming too. Don't know what I was thinking, but I do catch myself, thankfully. I realize that it's upside down, so I take it off and turn it to the right side. And I catch and change the other one as well. Thankfully, I caught it and had an epoxied over it, because that would have been a nightmare. So I do correct that. So add the very last outline on, and then it's time to add that other little flower on. And I struggled with where to put it because I didn't want them too close together. Yeah, I don't know. I struggled really hard with trying to place where I wanted it. So watch me struggle with that. Yay, a decision was finally made. All right, so now that I've got that down, what I need to do is just check and make sure everything is correct. And then I need to, because I have so much vinyl work on here, I want to make sure that I do seal this a couple good times with my clear spray. And then once that is dry, I can do 2 coats of epoxy and this beauty is done. I really hope that she loves her tumbler. She showed me a picture of what she wanted, and I was getting as close as possible as I could. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a great big thumbs up. This one is not available on the website, but if you want your own custom tumbler, please check out the website. And I hope you have a great day. Bye, guys.